It's time now for the Late Night Dilly Dilly, the Buddy Martin Show and Podcast on a Monday night.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the Buddy Martin Show. Glad to be with you on this Monday night, late night dilly dilly. It's time to talk a little bit of recruiting. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to amp it up. We got some special shows planned for you, some new recruiting experts, and some of the best in the business starting tonight in just a moment with Jason Higdon. So we'll get the latest. I've got the list of commits. I got the maybes, the leans, whatever. We got it all right here. Coming up in about 2 minutes. Also, we'll talk with Graham Hall, the Minister of Information, who has a little bit of recruiting news as well. Graham will be joining us. And then, of course, on Monday night, we always bring it home with Sir Francis, the Iron Duke. Franz Beard will join us after that. Well, I'm back and I'm feeling better. For some of you who watched me last week, I had the bug, and I went down with it. Matter of fact, after my third show on Friday morning, I came home and plopped down and only got out of bed long enough to go to a wedding and right back into bed. I'm happy to report I'm on the way back. So I'll be here usual time this week with a special show here and there. We got some terrific guests, including Chris Childers from SEC Today, XM Sirius Radio, the usuals. We'll have Robbie Andrew and Chris Doring and Zach Abelverdi and lots more people this week for you. We'll cover all the recruiting from every conceivable angle. So we're back. Glad to be here and glad to have the guests we got lined up. I don't watch that much NFL, but I happened to watch this weekend because we didn't have any college football. Wow, what a weekend. And I chatted some with Terry Bradshaw last week about it. Just when I was ready to cash it in to stop watching the NFL, we had a couple of terrific weekends and some unbelievable finishes, including one right there in Miami with the Dolphins coming back in they call it Miracle in Miami. And it was that. I mean, that was a remarkable play. They had it planned out, and then Kenyon Drake had a freaking ass at the end and went raced to the end zone as time expired. What a finish that was. We'll do a little more NFL next couple of weeks. As the regular season winds down. We hope to have Terry Bradshaw tomorrow. We'll check on that. But the Dolphins are on their own 31-yard line with 7 seconds left, down by 5 points. And then they pulled off this remarkable, it's called Boise, by the way. The play is called Boise. Hook and ladder play. They call it hook and lateral now, I guess, play. Similar to one Boise State used in the 2000 Fiesta Bowl win over Oklahoma. So, yeah, it started with Ryan Tannehill and then Kenny Stills, who ran on the inside curl route. He then pitched it over to Devontae Parker. Parker then finds running back Kenyon Drake, treading on the play with a lateral, and then Kenyon Drake just blasted in the end zone. It was a fantastic finish. The NFL's gotten more interesting, I have to admit that, the last couple of weeks. So we'll be doing that also tonight. Thank you to all of our sponsors, particularly our friends at CD Farms, Tracy and Chris DeCubulis. We've got a little more on them coming out later. His season's here. I got some great greens the other day. I had lunch with Tracy, with Chris, up at Micanopy, and he brought us a bunch of kale and stuff, and it was really good stuff, fresh greens. There's a program you can join, by the way, to get that. So If you don't know anything about it, we'll certainly make sure we do tell you that. So we're going to give it a shot here to see if we can get a hold of our friend Jason Higdon. Jason, of course, first and 10 Florida, has a first class recruiting service, and also has the latest information on the Florida commits. So we'll be talking to Jason here shortly, and we'll get his information. You know, in the world of recruiting, in the mean streets of Twitter, some people just won't go there, by the way. You get some things that sometimes are just not correct. You get some people who become instant experts. And I saw one today who was, who was actually becoming an instant expert. That's what he was doing. And he talked like he knew something and he had nothing. I made a remark about meeting Trent Whittemore, the outstanding receiver and basketball player from Buchholz, one of the commits to the Gators. I know his story because I interviewed him. I had a chance to find out that he was changing positions. He's a really good-looking kid who's tall. He's fast. I see a role for him as a safety, maybe, or imagine having a guy 6'3" in the secondary. So that's and I was very impressed. And this kid came on and said, "Well, you wasted it. You wasted a scholarship here." I'm thinking, who is this guy, and who does he think he is? Because I have met the young man. I've seen video on him. I talked to his dad, who's his coach, and I think he's an impressive guy. Do I think he's going to be a superstar? Well, no, I don't think he will. I think he will be a solid performer and a guy that will play some in Florida, and who knows what you might get. He's still got some growing to do, and he's about 6'3" now and putting on weight, and some of the snide remarks that were made by people as if they knew all about it. So I challenge this young man who put this out there thinking, all right, what does he know that, never mind Jason Higdon, what does he know that I don't know? Because I've spent time talking to the young man, and I've seen video on him, as I said, and I'm thinking, this guy must be fancy himself as some kind of up-and-coming guru. So I just checked him out. I thought, well, I'll go online. I'll see how many followers he has. 12 followers, making all this noise out there. And this is the thing about Twitter. People can pop on there. They become an expert at everything, and next thing you know, you give them voice. And so I was kind of sorry in the end that I actually even bothered responding to him. But this is what it is in this world. I know some of you are also pretty knowledgeable on recruiting. As a matter of fact, we'll say hello, welcome to the program tonight to our friends out there in late night dilly land. And let's see if we can dial up a few of you while we look for Jason's number and check out what we got going on here. Good evening to you out there. Larry Griffin wants to talk about the Heisman Trophy. Boy, the Alabama fans are pretty steamed about this. I'll tell you how I voted. I'm one of 870 voters in this thing now. They cut off a few. So I thought, well, I got to be honest. When it was all said and done, I chose the guy I thought wound up with the most impressive game of the year, and a guy I felt like was somebody that I could, in all conscience, say he won it fair and square. And we're going to go to the hotline now, and we couldn't get him on Skype, so we'll try to get him here on the phone and pipe it over. Jason Higdon, you there?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good, man. Can you call me back on Skype? I've been trying to dial you. Do you know my Skype number?
Give it to me. I can try it.
All right, I'm gonna dial you up. I've got you on there now. So let's just work through this a little bit here and see if we can figure it out. I don't want to waste your time. I got your list, a very impressive list of on your first and 10 Florida list, the commits. I don't know what it all means, except to say that it looks like Florida's doing quite well. Why don't you give us an overall assessment, Jason, of where you think Dan Mullen is now, it looks like he may get a pretty good haul.
Yeah, but I think they're, again, just like the last time we talked, I think they're right on track to where they want to be. They have 6 offensive linemen. They have Trent Whitmore, who actually most people think he's going to Florida as a safety. Really, he's going in as a wide receiver. They have 2 other wide receivers, Jamarcus Weston, Deontay Marks, who will be making his official visit this week. And this weekend's actually a big weekend for them. They have Trey Sanders coming in, Devy Hammond, Chester Kimbrough. So I think right now where they are, they're in a phenomenal position. And, they still have a lot left out there. So, Wednesday they'll be down at IMG. They're going to see Dante Lucas and Trey Sanders and Evan Neal. This weekend, I think you should see probably the class grow from 18 to 19 if things work out the way they're expecting. So I think they're right on track right now. They have a lot of big-name guys they're trying to kind of get over the hump with, and I think when we get to the 19th, we'll have a much more clearer picture of how things are going to progress from there to February.
All right, a couple of questions, if you would, Jason. By the way, you can go to First and 10 Florida and check out Jason's latest information. Become a subscriber. It's as good as it gets. And I want to ask you about Trey Sanders. I think I saw a picture of him in a Georgia uniform. Am I right about that?
You may have. I mean, these kids, a lot of times, they, one weekend they're wearing an LSU hat, next weekend they're wearing Gator flip-flops or a Florida State shirt, and then a Florida pullover. So I don't think I actually saw him, wearing that, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if you did. And I don't think it's very uncommon for those guys to do those kind of things. I think what is helping Florida a lot is obviously Trey's older brother is, part of the football program now. A lot of people, were thinking he was probably going to end up at Alabama. He was once committed there, decommitted. We don't typically see guys when they decommit from a school that actually end up committing back to the original school. Plus Mike Loxley leaving, he was his lead recruiter.
Right.
That really helped out Florida. Mel Tucker, the DC at Georgia, leaving really helped out Florida, I think, with guys like Kyrie Elam and Tyreek Stevenson, who was actually just at Florida this weekend for his official visit. So I think there's a lot of things that are all kind of brewing together, that kind of perfect storm, if you will, that's all kind of leading some of these recruits who may not have been seriously looking at Florida 3 months ago, kind of putting Florida back on top. So there's probably 18 guys right now, at least, that in my opinion are down to Florida and one other school, whether it's Nathan Pickering in Florida and Alabama, Elam and maybe Georgia and Florida, or Tyreek, Florida and Miami. I mean, the list goes on and on. Dante Lucas, who's committed to Florida State, who was there this past weekend, had a great trip. His mom really loved it. Might be a little tough to prime away from FSU. We'll see. Florida gets to see him on Wednesday. That'll be the last chance that Dan Mullen gets a chance to see him and hear his pitch before the dead period starts Sunday night. So there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, let's get to Whittemore. I had a chance to meet that young man. He was one of the finalists for the Scott Brantley Trophy, which is a 6-county area. And I had spent an evening talking with him at the Ocala Quarterback Club, and I was very impressed. I met his dad, talked to him, of course, who's the coach is his coach at Buchholz. His dad said he'd never made anything less than an A. He scored 1,000 points in basketball. First player there at the Buchholz to do that. Of course, playing on 2 sports. He's going to stay. He's not leaving early. He's going to stay the whole summer and the whole spring and play basketball. He was a yes-or-no-sir kind of kid, very bright, and I was very impressed with him, especially for a guy who's supposedly got the speed he's got, for a guy who's 6'3", I believe. And obviously he jumps well. So I saw some people talking trash online. Some kid talking, well, it's a wasted scholarship. And I said, I couldn't resist it. I don't usually fire back. But I answered his tweet with, so are you like Jason Higdon or something? I mean, because have you knowing about this kid at all? Because I've actually talked to him and talked to his dad and spent time with him, watched film on him. I'm not saying he's going to be an All-American necessarily, but he's not a wasted scholarship. And I thought to myself, it must drive people like you crazy. People who do their homework and know what's going on and have some amateur firing missiles out there at these prospects as if they know something. So I went on his Twitter account, this kid. He has 12 followers. 12.
Well, here's the thing, buddy. And, I tell you what, Trent actually reminds me of a player from years past that Florida took.
Chris
that
Curry?
at the time, a lot of people thought was maybe a questionable decision by Urban, and his name happened to be Trey Burton. And the last time I checked, Trey's still playing in the NFL.
Yes, he is.
Trey was an absolute, monster at Florida. He was a great young man. His brother was great. His mother was great. And, at the end of the day, look, there's GMs that I know that are making millions of dollars a year that get things wrong, and they have every amount of, piece of information known to mankind, and they still get it wrong sometimes. The college coaches, they don't have near that kind of information. So, sure, they get it wrong sometimes. But let me tell you something. Every football program needs a player that has I'm going to bring my lunch pail mentality to work every single day. And that kid is that kind of kid. Yeah. You need kids like that are going to run through the brick wall and not even hesitate or even turn or stop or slow up for a second to even question the coach, why are you asking me to run through a brick wall? And by the way, he's long, lean, rangy, fast, super athletic, and he can jump. So, I treat everybody with the same kind of respect on Twitter that I hope they would treat me with, because I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know how much knowledge they have over, the recruit they're speaking with, or if they've seen him in person, or if they've met his family, or if they know anything about his upbringing or his background or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I'm one of those guys who kind of is always going to lean a little bit more towards the coach knows best. It doesn't mean they get it right every time. I understand that. But, they have a lot more information available to them than I do, or you do, or some guy on Twitter who has 12 followers. So, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt until they prove me that I can't give them the benefit of the doubt any longer.
I got you. Well said. Can you take a couple questions here? I got people saying, and I want to get back to that final list too, if I can. One person, David, wants to know your feelings about the three kids from Lakeland.
Yeah, you know what? That's a hot topic right now. Hammond, the offensive lineman, of course, who transferred. Then you have Keon, the tight end, and of course Lloyd Summerall. I feel fantastic about Lloyd. He actually took a big jump on my recent most likely list, and where I now have him slotted. Keon, I'm a little bit more apprehensive. There's a lot of people close to the situation that feel great about him. They feel like they're going to get both of them. There's just, a little bit of something with that situation that I can't quite put my finger on. I'm not 100% comfortable. He's kind of right on the Mendoza line, if you will, for me, as far as being in the class or not being in the class. But certainly things look great with Hammond and Summerall. So, we'll see how that thing goes here.
All right. There's a kid named Diaz out there. You know about him?
Diaz?
Yeah, somebody's asking about it. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him, buddy.
Maybe that's the coach. I don't know. Anyway, so let's see what else we got. I got a bunch of questions on here. Joseph says we need to have Trey Sanders come with his brother, Umstead. You mentioned that earlier. Let's see. There's a support comment for Whittemore. Let's see. What else I got here? Let's see. Many think some are going to Miami. News to the D.C. Manny Diaz. Oh, that's what it is. Manny Diaz is going to Temple. That's what it was. And Manny Diaz, the defensive coordinator from Miami, may take some of these kids. That's what the comment was. Okay, have you heard anything about that?
Well, I can tell you, a kid who actually, Mullen spent time with tonight, made the in-home visit, Chris Bogle, an outside linebacker who is definitely a high priority for Florida. They had the in-home with him. Things went great. A lot of people think it's Miami. A lot of people think it's Florida. But, I haven't heard that Manny Diaz is leaving. But if he is leaving, and that's actually confirmed, I would imagine that'd be a pretty big blow for Bogle.
Yeah, these guys on this or the follow on our site, they're pretty dialed in on stuff like this. So, that's for sure. All right, let's get back to the list a second here. You gave me a terrific list, which I want to share with some of the people here that have not seen it, in terms of commits. And you said 18 verbal commits. You just said could be 19. Let me mention again that the website is First and 10. That's a 1ST and A&D 10florida.com. And then you mentioned the ones, the commits, and you've got Jalen Jones, Naquan Wright, Deontay Marks, Jamarcus Weston. We mentioned Whittemore, Kingsley. I don't know how to pronounce that. Igaquin or
I'm going to take your word for it, buddy.
Okay. All right. Then we know about the transfer Michael Tarkin, who was going to Miami and flipped. Riley Simons, offensive lineman. Wardrick Wilson, offensive lineman. And this big kid, Ethan White, who committed early. Massive offensive lineman. Those are the ones that you have down there as commits, right? We good with that?
Yeah, those are the offensive guys, and then you have Jaden Hill, the corner, and you have Chester Kimbrough. You got the 3 inside linebackers and the outside linebacker, and one D tackle with Jalen Humphreys.
Yeah, and I hadn't got to that list that you gave me there. That was just that's the next list that you gave me. Now there's a new walk-on, and I'm really happy for Shane and Luke both. He's preferred walk-on at Florida, following in his father's footsteps. He's only 5'9", obviously, so he's not going to get a scholarship. But he had a good high school career, but he just couldn't play D1, at least not here.
Right.
All right, you said here are the lanes. Let's talk about Chris Steele. Isn't he the California kid?
He is the California kid. That's correct. One-time, commitment USC.
Okay, and then I don't know D.A.V. Hammond. I'm not sure who he is.
He is. He's a big offensive lineman, a guard. He's one of the 3 from Lakeland that one of your members was asking about earlier.
Okay.
He'll be making his official visit to Florida this weekend.
Okay, and then Summerall, Hunter, and Dorius. You mentioned his lanes.
And Brent, those 5 are the 1 through 5 guys on the most likely to commit list that I have. Steele's been holding down the number 1 spot for roughly, probably, I would say the last 5, maybe 6 weeks. I just bumped Hammond up recently. I bumped Summerall up from that 8, 9, 10 spot to number 3. Hunter's been kind of holding steady right there at 4, and Dorless, rounds out the top 5. Right after that, you got Elam. Number 7 is Dante Lucas, but unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to slide Dante Lucas down from that 7 spot, maybe out of that top 10. Kind of haven't really decided on that yet, but I think that will be coming later tonight.
Okay. So right now in your projection, without knowing, what do you project Florida will finish in the top 25?
Well, I think definitely there's enough meat on the bone, so to speak, with what they have now and what's still out there that, really anything less than them kind of cracking that top 10, I think I'd be a little bit surprised. I tell myself in recruiting, I'll never be surprised again, after the whole Matt Patchen and his dad, Ruben Randy Shannon, the guy ends up in Florida. When that happened, I told myself, you can't be surprised at anything that happens in recruiting after that. So, I expect them to be in the top 10. They have a lot of guys like Chris Steele, Derek Hunter and Elam, and, a kid like Akeem Dent, who no one's really talking about, and Trey Sanders and Bogle. There's a lot of guys out there that are ranked really high that will give Florida a lot of points that will put them in that, mythical top 10 by the time we get to February. So, 9 days from now, on the 19th or whatever it is, we're going to know a lot more about where this thing stands.
For sure. Final question for Jason Higdon, 1st and 10. How much disinformation is out there?
How much? What? I'm sorry, buddy.
Disinformation. People putting out fake news.
I don't think people intentionally put out fake news. I think the problem is, a lot of people that kind of do this for a living, they get their information from people that aren't really, fully required to be giving them information, and they run with it. Yeah. And, in this day and age with social media and these websites, when one thing gets reported and it spreads like wildfire and the rumors get going and the pitchforks come out and, I think a lot of it is that. I don't think anybody intentionally does it. I think a lot of people they don't really know what's going on, and they kind of, reach for straws a little bit. So, unfortunately in this job, if you're not, dealing with the right people, you're kind of swimming upstream with, forget about the paddle. You're kind of swimming upstream without a boat. So yeah. I think you just got to be careful on, who you're getting your information from. And, these guys that everybody follows, they have track records, and I would recommend just follow a guy's track record and see. I tell everybody, no matter what, I don't care what they say, stick to your guns. If you believe Florida's getting a kid, great. If you believe he's not getting a kid, great. If there's ever such a time where you want to roll with me and believe what I say, more power to you. But until that time comes, stick to your guns and you'll never be disappointed.
Well, I think you're pretty authentic in what you do because you have good sources and you're informed, and we appreciate it. I hope we have a chance to get you on here one more time before National Signing Day. We'll see how your schedule goes. I think you're really busy right now. But really,
I always have time for you guys, buddy.
Well, we appreciate it, and we appreciate all that you bring and your authenticity. And check out the website and Twitter and follow Jason. Stay close to what he's saying if you want to be informed. Jason Higdon, 1st and 10 Florida. Thanks so much, Jason.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.
Good night. So I'm talking about the real stuff, okay? You got a lot of rumors, a lot of things going on, and some of you guys have good stuff. In fact, I believe we'll be hearing more pretty soon from Quentin and Lynn and others who also do a good job. So we will stay close to that. All right. Thanks to Jason Higdon. We want to see if we can get our commercial out of the way, and then we'll go to our buddy, the Minister of Information. So stand by.
Job-related accidents create incredible stress on your finances, your relationships, and most importantly, your sense of well-being. When the adjuster is not approving benefits you're entitled to by law, you need Dan Hightower to help you understand all of your legal options. Daniel L. Hightower has been fighting for accident victim justice in Ocala and statewide since 1976. Call Daniel L. Hightower today to better understand all your legal options. 352-629-7777.
1976. I want to tell you about Renstar Medical Research, big in the community, and a first-class research facility right here in Ocala. They are well known in the industry. They are a company that has had clinical trials forever, it seems like, and their information goes to pharmaceutical companies and to other for data, and they are very careful, and all the clinical trials they do are closely monitored by the FDA, and they're looking for things they can get help these pharmaceutical companies treat things like fibromyalgia and like Alzheimer's. In fact, there's a study going on right now, Alzheimer's, and they're doing good work there. They're also very much involved in the Scott Bradley Trophy. And support everything in the community that we care about here on this program, and we thank them for that. So if you want to know more about it, go to renstar.net, look up the information if you want to be a part of the clinical trials, and they can give you information there when you call them or go online and find out what they're doing in our community. Renstar Medical Research. All right, let's go out now to the hotline and see if we can talk to our buddy Graham Hall. I'll say one thing. I'm back. With all the medication I've taken for this cold, it does make me a little slower tonight. So bear with me on that. We're getting there a little bit at a time. Let's see what Graham's got to offer. Graham Hall, of course, works at GatorBait.net and also does freelancing for the Gainesville Sun. And we've got him on the show here in just a moment. Let's see if we can. People aren't answering their phones tonight. We'll see what we can do about that. All right. Stand by for a second. I hope you got that information from Graham. Excuse me, from our buddy Jason Higdon. Good stuff right there. We'll post some out here online a little bit later on. So I'll just go ahead and say good evening to everybody out there tonight. Thank you for your participation, Lynn. Lynn and Quentin pretty soon are going to be delivering some good stuff for us. So stay tuned for that. Matter of fact, we got several new shows planned. And with the new year or before, we'll be bringing them to you. And we will be able to introduce some new people to you. One of them will be on recruiting. We got special shows planned. We're very excited about it. Talked to the Crown Prince today. Our coordinating producer, Chad Rich, is going to be involved. And we're going to bring you some new products and new things I think you'll be happy with. So stay tuned for that. We'll have an announcement later on where we'll be able to tell you more about that. So stand by for 1 second while we do this. All right, let's see if we can get good. Greg, can you call me on Skype? I can't seem to get you to pick up. All right? All right, thanks. All right, he's there. He's not picking up either tonight. That seems to be our theme tonight. Did you see the Heisman stuff? What do you think about the outcome? I told you I would tell you who I voted for, and I'll tell you now. I voted for Kyler Murray. So I'll tell you about that a little later. We're going to dial in our buddy Graham and see what he's up to. Graham Hall from Gator Bay.
Hey, buddy, how you doing,
man?
Hey,
Graham, how are you doing, my man?
Cannot complain. It is chilly in Florida, and
yeah, boy, is it ever.
I'm surviving it.
I'd say a little more than chilly for us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually helping my dad shovel some mulch this morning, and it was 45 degrees, and I was still finding a way to sweat a whole bunch. So, hey, what are you going to do, though? It could be a lot worse. It could be snowing. I'm seeing these pictures up north, and I'm feeling pretty grateful to be living in Florida.
We'll take this any day of the week. Yeah.
Sure.
We just had a visit with Jason Higdon.
Sure.
And we went over the list of commits and the ones that are leaning one way and the other. And there's a little bit of late news happening. Our people here are wondering if you know anything, if you have any information on the kids from Lakeland. I know you have been busy with basketball and haven't been able to follow it like you usually do. But it seems and feels like, after talking to Jason again, that there's a momentum for Dan Mullen right now. If everything comes together, they're going to get their 18. Jason says 19 players, and they may not get all the ones they want. But one of them that comes up, we're talking about, obviously, that the early commit is Trent Whittemore, who, by the way, is he's not a 3-star or whatever. He's from right there in Buchholz. And I saw a tweet today by somebody who was sort of dissing Trent Whittemore as being a waste of scholarship. And
11 touchdowns this year at wide receiver. Yeah. So, I could see that happening for sure with him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's going to play in the second. He told me, I talked to him, that he was going to play in the secondary on defense. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. And have a guy that tall with that good of hands and very good speed for a tall kid. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I got to cover several of Trent's games this year, and there were games that he played 5 positions. There were games where he kicked, played quarterback, played safety, played wide receiver, was used as a tight end at times. This is a kid who has been able to dunk a basketball since he was in 8th grade. And you take one look at him and people kind of write him off at times, but then you see him on the field. The only reason he's probably not early enrolling is because unless he's changed his mind. But
no, he told me why. He told me why. He wants to play basketball.
He wants to play basketball, and he's loved basketball, and his dad is very involved in the program, and his brother Luke played basketball before going to Troy, and that is a kid who's an absolute gamer, and Florida's still going to be after him as well, but this is a kid who could wind up. I love people on Twitter were saying Hunter Renfrow or something like that is a good comparison. Yeah, maybe not exactly, but Whittemore's going to find some way to stick and be productive. It's just the way he is. He's going to find some role and carve it out. And whether it's in the secondary or whether it's on offense, time will only tell. But whatever he gets put at, the kid's going to work as hard as he can to make it there. Just that's the way he is. That's the way he's raised, and that's the way he sees his future. The Lakeland trio is very interesting to me. And I was listening to Jason a little bit talk about. And you talk a little bit about fake news and people putting stuff out there. And, the Lakeland duos, Lloyd Summerall and Keon Zipperer is very interesting to me. You look on 24/7 and Lloyd Summerall has a 93% crystal ball projection to Florida. And Keon Zipperer is up there as well. And these kids are given their final official visit next week to Miami. And I've heard Florida may not even think they need to take a tight end in this class. And Lloyd Summerall, he's a very good prospect. But this weekend, Florida was really looking to kind of to push those kids farther to committing. And I don't know if they really heard what they want to hear. And it's going to be a process where, those kids could announce on December 19th that they're signing with Miami. And it wouldn't be that surprising just because of Lakeland, how far, how close they are down there, how much they've trended in that direction, the last official visit. It wouldn't be surprising is all I'm saying, but at the same time, you could easily see them ending up at Florida. That word that I'm sure you've heard thrown around a lot more in the last 5 years, troll, is making its way in recruiting, and where, guys who are committing to a rival school will make the rival school, the other school, believe that, they should hold a space for them, and it can mess up their long-term recruiting and jeopardize, a rival program's long-term growth. And that may be a situation here for one of these two schools. One of them may be getting trolled. And I think Jason has a good point. You can choose to believe whoever you want, whether they're coming to Florida, whether they're going to troll Florida and commit to Miami. But I think the only one who really knows what those kids are going to do is Lloyd Summerall and Keon Zipperer. And we all just have to sit by and calmly wait until next Wednesday when they announce it. Either way, Florida's class has trended extremely well, and anyone who watched this year may think that, taking a guy like Diavi Hammond or maybe if they can flip Dante Lucas and signing 6 offensive linemen is a better use than adding another tight end at a position that has 3 guys in that room who've barely produced. So there's a debate to be had for sure for both those guys. But either way, this isn't a situation where if they don't land those kids, they're in dire straits. There's a contingency plan, and Florida, after making a New Year's Six bowl, gets to do something that Florida State and Miami don't get to do. They get to kind of look around and pick and choose, which in the past they were the ones who were kind of eating the crumbs that fell off the table from the scraps that after Florida State and Miami and Georgia and Alabama had their way with them. Now Florida gets to kind of throw some pick and choose and throw the rest of the scraps to the dogs, so to speak, and that's where they're at right now. And we'll see how it all shakes out, though.
For sure. You said you heard some of what Jason said.
Yeah.
What was the biggest surprise to you what he said about Florida's recruiting?
Well, I liked that he had Chris Steele number 1 on his most likely to pop list.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is one that's extremely interesting to me. I do think that Florida is the leader. I don't know. That's one that could go either way, and we're gonna sit here if that does happen and say, "Wow, Florida landed a top kid from California." This never happens, and then you can finally say that bucks the trend, and we can actually begin to speculate more on California kids. I don't know if that'll happen. It is interesting to me that he has that list just in general because Darius is on there as well. Dorius, I'm sorry, the kid who just decommitted from Virginia Tech. That is one that, if you look around, and I'm not trying to insult Jason in any way by saying this. If you look around about, Jason makes a good point about believing who you want to believe. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the hype for these kids, Chris Steele, Dorius, Diavi Hammond, Jason has done a very good job at I don't want to say driving the hype train, but informing a lot of those people and kind of creating an idea that some of these kids are going to pop sooner than they are because everyone else left on Florida's board, I can't say this any more clear, unless Florida's coaching staff pushes them to commit early so that they can have a better idea of who they're signing. All the kids on their board are going to probably commit within 24 hours, 48 hours of December 19th, the early signing period. And, Jason makes a good point about you got to remain patient. But at the same time, I think that a lot of names have got out there about kids, people thinking that, Dorius was going to flip instantly after his visit. You have to remember that, like what I said, Florida has the ability to pick and choose from guys right now, and they have a pecking order. And anyone thinking that all these chips are going to fall or that Florida wants a guy like Dorius to commit right away when guys like Lloyd Summerall, and Justin Egboyi and other guys like that are still out there, they don't have the right conception. And I'm not trying to be critical at all, but that's just right now the leverage that Florida has. And Jason, I think, has done a very good job of informing people, trying to tread the fine line of informing people on who Florida is going after, while also letting them know that this is a process, and just because we throw out a name in October or November that could commit to Florida doesn't mean that it's going to happen within an hour. It just may be someone who on December 19th, notifies Florida, hey, I'm signing a letter of intent.
Right. Real quick, on the high school scene, the state championships, we had 2 in Jacksonville. what game caught your eye? I know you didn't cover it, but you follow it. Any surprises there on the high school championship?
Oh, sure. I'll say Lakeland. I mean, them beating St. Thomas Aquinas, an absolute powerhouse. Yeah. 33-20 is a huge step forward for that school in that area, because I think there has, Lakeland is technically South Florida, but I think that it doesn't get the equal respect that areas like Plantation, Miami, Fort Lauderdale have received, and they deservedly, I think, have that chip on their shoulder. And they've had great recruits, but it's been a while since St. Thomas Aquinas has lost a state championship game and not looked like the better team while doing it, if that makes sense. Lakeland looked great, and Lloyd Summerall looked great. He forced a fumble. He had a sack. He had 7 tackles. And Keon Zipperer is a different guy. I don't know if he ends up at tight end, but the kid can absolutely play football, and it's going to earn him, an NFL paycheck one day. And that was on full display against probably, a top 5 team in the state of Florida, and that means they're probably a top 15 high school team in the country.
Yeah. Okay, I got to stop here because you're starting to get too much love on this show. All right.
Stop.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Gary Teff. Hey, buddy. Graham is awesome. Go Gators.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that,
so
guys.
Go.
That's too kind of you. It's always my pleasure being here and chatting up with you, buddy, and all that.
Likewise.
You're the real star of the show, though.
No, buddy, I'm no star. I'm just a guy with a microphone asking questions. That's all I am.
You asked some good ones, and
guy, so.
We couldn't do without you, man. You're driving the Gator Nation kingdom, man.
Well, I appreciate that, and I really appreciate you coming on, my friend. You have a lot of friends,
always
people here. So thanks so much, and hopefully talk again soon. Don't get too much of that basketball in your brain. It'll add to your brain from
10
football.
days off now, though. So.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to take a little vacation. I'll see you guys soon.
Okay. The Minister of Information, Graham Hall. Thanks, my friend.
Take care, guys.
All right. All right. There he is, the Minister of Information. He's always got stuff. Let's do this and go get Franz. He's going to be checking here to find out what is going on. Let me tell you about Grinders. There's a good-looking guy in this one. If you look at this picture, there's a guy in a new sport coat. And let's get Graham's name off there. And he is me. That's my sport coat I ordered from Grinders. I'm so happy with it. Never mind the jokes about Omar the tent maker being my tailor. I got all that stuff. No, seriously, very happy with it. Great garment, fits good, tailored just for me. And I got it right here at Grinders for Men, located in Ocala, 405 East Servicemen's Boulevard, 693195, or go to grindersofocala.com. And they got some beautiful clothes. They're priced right, and they got all kind of things your husband or your grandfather or your uncle or your brother would like to have, and they'll help you with them if you need a Christmas gift. I recommend you put Grinders at the top of your list for anybody in your family, and they'll be pleased with that box they see under the tree when it says Grinders on it. So appreciate very much having a place like this in Ocala. Grinders for Men, 62-year tradition here in Ocala. Check them out. You can go online, grindersofocala.com, or go to downtown and visit them, 405 East Serviceman Boulevard in Ocala. All right, we'll take another little break here. We're going to go get Franz. Let's see who we're going to get up next here. Let's talk about a place right around the corner from there. Well, actually about a mile away, and that would be Center State Bank of Ocala. Center State Bank, centered on community and customer service. They believe in certain values, core values, like being locally market-driven, long-term horizon on their debt, on their loans, projections, and world-class service, among other things. If you don't know, have one in your community, well, want to know if you got one, go to centerstatebank.com, look it up, like the one on the top left-hand side. This place is a special place for Ocala people. You can actually go in there, get everything from a chocolate chip cookie to a good banking service, to a checking account, savings, whatever. Or you can go and ask them about the second floor art gallery and meeting room that they provide for people in Ocala, and they do so without a charge except for cleanup. And they do have events, weddings, quarterback club meetings, etc. in there. And that's part of what they mean when they say Center State Bank, centered on community and customer service. And we'll go get Franz Beard now and ask his thoughts about things, see what he thinks about the latest in recruiting. I have a piece of news for him. I have a very, very good source who just sent me a text who's somehow got the inside on some things before in the past. And he has just told me what we always believe was correct regarding one Chip Kelly. I know some of you folks think we're crazy. We were very much a part of that because we were ones who broke the story on Chip Kelly being interviewed. If you remember the airport story, most of you here are old timers and you remember that. And I've got some information on that, which Franz is going to be surprised to hear. So we'll be looking for Franz. Let's go now to that hotline and get rid of our thing up here and see if we can get a hold of Franz Beard. He's on the screen. There he is. Hello, Francis.
Good evening.
I got some news for you.
Tell me some news.
You're going to be pleasantly surprised at this news. And I know people say, yeah, you said something before that wasn't right. You're wrong again. I have a friend who's very connected to a good source who said the reason we all couldn't figure out what was going on with Chip Kelly, he made a verbal commitment to Florida and backed out. Just as we had suspected, and I trust this guy. He's been right on almost everything he's ever said. He doesn't take wild swings. So what looked like a duck and walked like a duck wasn't a duck. And if this is accurate, and I say we've got a 95% chance of it, then there's a reason. The reason was he backed out of the deal. How about them apples?
Oh, I believe that, and I've known, and I've heard from some pretty reliable people that was the case, and the reason that he backed out was essentially his agent convinced him that the UCLA job was it would be a lot easier to win at UCLA than it would be to win at Florida, as long as Nick Saban is ruling the roost in the SEC.
Yeah. So here we are, and what a favor he did for us.
Oh, exactly. I mean, look, Dan Mullen is the real deal, and Florida is going to be equal to or greater than Georgia before you know it. And I'm convinced that. I still can't get over what Mark Bradley of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution called the unpunt when Kirby Smart ran a fake punt in that game, lost the ball game with a fake punt. No question about it. Lost a football game. I don't see Dan Mullen doing that kind of stuff. Mullen is a sound coach. He'll go for it on 4th and 1, but you don't fake a punt like that in a game of that magnitude when essentially you've been winning the whole ball game.
Yes.
So I'm convinced that we got the right guy. Convinced that we got the guy that really knows how to coach. I think Georgia's got themselves a really good recruiter. I'm not sure he's going to be the great coach they'd like him to be long term.
Yeah, for sure. All right, maybe you didn't heard Jason Higdon, your friend, tonight had a complete session on recruiting. I don't know how much of it you've heard. It sounds pretty good. There's still a lot of game left on the table. It's getting the right ones, and it sounds like there's some things shaking, including one of the top players in the country that has now become a viable option for them, and they wind up getting him. That would be a big one. So, did you hear any of the news from
No, I did okay. Not. I've been doing hospital duty for the last 3 days.
How are things, Franz, and your family?
I think my stepfather's coming home tomorrow, and they've run a bunch of tests, and I think they've come up with some answers. So hopefully things will be looking up and up very soon.
Well, our thoughts and prayers are with your mom and dad, and I know you've been through some tough times, and you've been a great son, and you really have taken care of your family and and your sisters. So you take care of yourself, my friend, and we'll be thinking about you.
I presume you're talking about Kayvon Thibodeau.
No, it wasn't Thibodeau, but he certainly is one of them. It was Trey.
Trey Sanders.
Trey Sanders, yeah.
The running back, the running back from IMG Academy. And if they swing Trey Sanders, they're gonna swing that big guard that's there too. Florida is in really, really good shape now for linemen. I got to tell you what, the Hammond kid from Lakeland. Right. Dante Lucas, I think they're going to flip him from Florida State. His mother absolutely is enamored with Dan Mullen. And remember what Bear Bryant used to say, mamas don't lose too many recruiting battles. And his mama is totally enamored with Dan Mullen and the Florida coaching staff. Mm-hmm. So the Gators have 6 offensive linemen in the bank. I think they're going to wind up with maybe 8, possibly 9. I mean, this could be the best offensive line recruiting class the Gators have had in years and years since the Pounceys came along with Marcus Gilbert. This will be the best, I believe. So huge implications here for Florida. I'm convinced that Mullen is going to finish in a very, very big way. I think we're all going to be surprised with it. I think we're going to see the foundation for future championships. Just like when the Pounceys came aboard, we saw the foundation for championships in the future in 2007. A year later, when they were sophomores, Florida wins it all.
Yeah. One of the things, as you know, that when you get a coaching change, sometimes it definitely changes the dynamics of a recruit. And one of the things going around now is been mentioned several times through the night about the defensive coordinator leaving Miami, going to Temple, I believe it was, and that might change some things. Some commits from Florida. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, he's one of the two they're really looking at. It's either going to be Manny Diaz or it's going to be Mike Elko, who's the defensive coordinator at Texas A&M. Elko, I believe Elko's probably going to have the edge there because he was at Notre Dame. And as you know, to recruit Temple, you got all these Catholic schools in that area. The best football is played in the Catholic leagues. And here you got a guy with the connections at Notre Dame, et cetera, like that. That could be the deciding factor there. But Manny Diaz is a bright guy. You know, it's interesting. Manny Diaz worked for Dan Mullen. So did Jeff Collins, who left Temple to become the head coach at Georgia Tech. Another guy who worked for Dan Mullen. Dan's got a rather nice little coaching tree about to develop here.
Okay. Now, it looks to me like and according to Jason, Florida has a legitimate shot of finishing with the top 10. It would be a little bit of a push to get to the top 10. He thinks it could happen. They could get to the top 10. That would be a long way back from where they started, which, of course, was back in the pack. And to think they could pull off a top 10 class would be remarkable.
Well, this is kind of the way it used to be. I give Will Muschamp credit. Muschamp was a guy whose classes looked weak, and then in the week before National Signing Day, all of a sudden it was flip, and closing with a flurry. And Muschamp was absolutely outstanding at that. I think Mullen's kind of showing that ability too, because you got to remember, his class last year looked really weak, and then the last week it just picked up steam, and the Gators ended up with a very respectable class. I think that this class is going to have that same kind of effect. I think the next 10 days are going to be just a lot of fun for Florida. I think buckle up your seatbelts and make sure your hat's strapped on, because the Gators are going to close in a flurry.
Yes. All right, so I haven't been watching any of the NFL to speak of. Maybe a half a game or a game a weekend. I used to have the service from DirecTV where I had all the games, and I watched them. I've dropped off the last couple of years. I happened to watch couple of games this weekend, and one of them was the Miracle in Miami. If you've had a chance to see it or not. Kenyon Drake, who earlier this year, by the way, had lost a game by fumbling the ball from Miami, a game they had was theirs till they fumbled it, was the hero of this game, although it was a triple pitch, whatever you want to call it. They have a name for it. They call it Boise after the 2000 Fiesta Bowl when Boise beat Oklahoma on display. And it was really fun to watch it. And boy, I'm telling you, as a critic of the NFL being boring and no fun, the last couple of weekends have been pretty darn interesting. And now that we don't have college football for another week, we'll have some of it. What's our first games? I've got all our whole
first bowl games are this weekend.
Yeah, I've got the whole list of games. I counted, by the way, nine teams that were 6-6. So obviously there are too many bowls. But let me get to this point real fast and get your final thoughts of the night, unless you have something you want to say besides this. When you look at a situation where we have players walking away from bowl games, and I understand the economics, and we've been down this road a couple of times, it concerns me that it might, I won't say reach epidemic proportions, but who's to say now, with like Greedy Williams sitting out a pretty big game, that it won't start earlier than that if a senior who's coming out has a losing record and they have 2 games regular season, and why wouldn't he just say, I'm going to take a knee for the rest of the season and not play in the bowl? Then you got a problem. There's 2 ways to resolve that. One of them is to have more teams in the playoffs and making it meaningful, where you, and the other is to have fewer bowl games. I don't know. What's your thought about that? Do you see anything happening here to postseason? Are we in danger of having some of the best players sit out because of they don't want to take a chance? And what is taking a chance? Where do you draw the line and say, you know what, this is getting risky. I might cost myself $1 million. And I get that completely. But what about the integrity of the game, Franz?
Well, I agree with you. The integrity of the game is secondary to me first. Will Greer, I'll give you the perfect example. Will Greer is sitting out West Virginia's bowl game. Now, here's what I wrote about this today, and here's what that says to me. That says, I don't give a damn about you offensive linemen who threw your bodies on the line and risked life and limb to protect me. I don't give a damn about you wide receivers who ran crossing routes over the middle and knew that there was some headhunter safety out there that was just dying to take your head off, and you could get a targeting call so easily and have a concussion that could ruin your life. It says, I don't give a damn about all these guys on the scout team who bust their butts. They aren't on scholarship, and they bust their butts every week to make you a better quarterback so that you can go out there and win one for old West Virginia University. I got to tell you what, I believe this. If you are healthy, you got to play. Now, if you're a guy that maybe has had injuries throughout the year and you're maybe not even 100% and playing in a bowl game, because you're at less than 100% could cost you your livelihood in the future, sit out. You got a good reason to sit. But if you're healthy, you don't have an excuse, period. Will Greer has a big insurance policy anyway. If he gets injured, he's going to be set for life anyway. Now, he won't have as much money as he'll get with that NFL contract. But if I'm an NFL GM, what does that say to me? During this guy's contract year, is he going to kind of say, well, gee, I might get hurt. I can't play at my best. It's a contract year. I'll be a free agent. It's a bad precedent, a horrible precedent, And unfortunately, I think that we're seeing just the tip of the iceberg. And you're absolutely correct. What happens when some guy all of a sudden has a great first half of the season and suddenly Mel Kiper's got his name up at the top of his big board and he says, wait a second, I could make a lot of money. Look what Mel Kiper's got. I better quit it right now and go train for the NFL because Mel Kiper knows what he's talking about. What happens then? The integrity of the game is at stake, and it's time for coaches to say, to tell these guys, fine, if you're going to do this, then I'll cut you off. No more scholarships, no nothing.
Well, it would be nice to say that it's happened, but in the past, when people have set games out, it hasn't affected their draft status at all. So apparently these guys don't mind it. I don't know. But anyway.
Well, the NFL would sign a guy who had burned down an apartment building, if they thought they could win a game with him. I mean, that's just the way the NFL is. It's a cutthroat business, and they don't really care. College football has been good to the NFL, a lot better than the NFL has been to college football.
All right, final thing, Franz. If you had to vote for the Heisman, who would you have voted for?
Tua. And the reason I would have voted for him was because I thought if he had played in the third and fourth quarter 8 times or 9 times, his numbers would have absolutely been far superior to that of Kyler Murray. But I think what happened was when Jalen Hurts won that game, the perception became Alabama would be 13-0 with Jalen Hurts just as easily as they would be 13-0 with Tua Tua,
yeah. Yeah. I can hear what you're saying.
Tonga Valoa, there we go. I can say it.
That's when they bring it back. Final thought. I voted for Tua second, Antonio Haskins third, and Kyler Murray. And the reason I did, and I can see it either way, I thought there was such an impressive finish to how he played in that game. You take him out of that game, there's no way that Oklahoma wins that game. And he's had to struggle all year long because of his defense. He has to outscore everybody, and he's been a dynamic player. I can't blame him because they have no defense. And so imagine Bob Stoops not having a defense, although he's not the head coach now. Lincoln Riley can score points. They just can't stop anybody. Anyway, I said to myself, how important is to the person, to their team? And in my opinion, it proved to me that when he sat out, when he got hurt, when Jalen Hurts came in to win the game, he was not as important to Alabama as Kyler Murray was to Oklahoma. That's how I felt about that. But anyway.
Well, I agree with you. Oklahoma couldn't have won 12 ball games without Kyler Murray. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that he was the absolute best? He's certainly right there with Tua. But I thought, I thought so much of this had to do with the numbers that he put up. And I mean, my gosh, Tua only played the first half in, I think, 6 ball games. If you just give him an extra quarter in those 6 ball games, what do his numbers look like? He threw, 35, 36 touchdown passes as it was? He might have thrown 50 touchdown passes if he played beyond there. So, again, I think the perception came in that when Hurts came in that ball game, that a lot of voters who were sort of on the edge about this voted for Kyler Murray because they thought to themselves, Alabama would be undefeated with Jalen Hurts in that ball game just as easily as they would be with Tua Tagovailoa.
All right. Well said, Francis. Good job. Talk to you later in the week again. I hope good luck to your parents and our thoughts and prayers. And hope you get good news about your stepfather.
And no basketball game this week.
Right.
And hopefully during this week, the Florida Gators will whatever is the lids that are on the basket will come off, and they'll be able to learn to hit some shots.
Yes. All right. That would we can. I don't have much to say about that game Saturday, except that they couldn't quite get there. And if they could have had anything out of their two leading scorers, they could have won that game. They had
three layups or 2 threes,
right,
or just hitting free throws,
and they couldn't make a free throw. They couldn't make a layup. They certainly couldn't make a three. It was a horrible shooting night, and that's too bad because this team is not that far away. Maybe they'll get better, but boy, I tell you, when you get that close and you think about that would be on your resume to beat Michigan State, that would help you come March. But wasn't meant to be. So there you go.
Elite defensively and a lot.
And mediocre offensively. Mediocre at best. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt when I say that.
Yep, exactly.
All right, Francis. Good job, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Talk to you. All right, Franz Beard there. Bringing it as he always does. Yeah, the keyboard warriors. I want to tell you a couple of things here before we go night tonight. But some of our friends, appreciate you always supporting our friends. They support us and they make it possible for us to do this show. People like Mark's in Ocala and Gainesville. 2 locations to serve you. You see them right there, Ocala and Gainesville. And that's that delicious food that they serve. Shrimp scampi on the left, the beef on the right. And their job is to give you a pleasurable dining experience. They want you to have good service, good food. The ambiance of Mark's is terrific. And when I go to a place, it's not just about the food or not just about the ambiance, but the total package. And when you come away feeling like you had a great experience, you want to go back. And that's why I go back quite often to partake of the goodies there. They have the fresh vegetables. They have the great wine cellar. They have top-notch seafood and top-notch steaks, as you see there on the screen. Drop by and see them at Mark's. If you're going to go during the holidays, be sure and call ahead of time because it's going to be busy. A lot of people come out in the holidays. If you go, be sure and ask about the gift cards. It's a great deal. A chance to buy something really nice and discounted and give someone something. Give people dinner out for very little money. So it's Mark's, Mark's Seafood and Steakhouse and Seafood, located in Ocala. You can call them at 352-402-0097. And in Gainesville, it's 352-336-0077. Mark's Seafood Steakhouse, all right? Then I want to get to our folks at All Florida Sportswear. And our friends Chris and Tracy. I got some new pictures of Chris in a video I shot last week. Got those delicious greens from City Farms. They're in season now. You get them while they got them there, and you can go online to City Farms Florida Facebook page and find out what they got. A special service where you can sign up and register for a subscription service. And they will get your stuff to you in some fashion, or you can pick it up at the farm in Archer. It's a terrific deal. They have great meat there. It's pasture fed. They do a really good job of that. And so go online and check out cityfarmsflorida.com or City Farms Florida Facebook page. You can see there when we were back in the party days, when we were doing the tailgate parties. Here's Chris and Tracy And there's some of those great peppers that she makes. I got to get Tracy to make me some of those. CD Farms, Florida. Check it out. Also, let's talk about another loyal friend and somebody who supports G&K, one of our founders, Jen. And this is a great time to be shopping for things for the family, and you can't go wrong with things from Tupperware. You see a sample just in the containers that they have. It's like my house. We're always looking for things to put leftovers in or whatever, and we do eat leftovers or whatever the case may be, cookies or whatever. And they got, as you see, a very colorful array of goods there. You can go on Tupperware Gin and get information from all the goodies for Christmas. She has Christmas stuff there. And you can check out her Facebook page and find something for that family, an item that they'll be treasured and used for the rest of their lives probably. It's very durable. It's been around for a long time. And it's just the perfect gift for holidays. Go to Tupperware Gin and check out what she's got to offer. Jennifer Lay, one of our loyal members and one of our great knights that helps us put this thing out. All right. And finally, well, let's go out with this. I'll tell you about Ocala Quarterback Club, which we're very happy to be able to say supporting and doing a great job on the Scott Bradley Trophy. And let's see if we even got that down here. Hold on a second. We'll see if we can locate it. May have to move it. There it is. Dr. Frank Cannon and Danny Williams. Danny's an appraiser. Danny Williams, appraiser. Dr. Cannon is an orthopedic surgeon who also has the Ocala Orthopedic Service. They support us at the Ocala Quarterback Club, very much behind the Scott Bradley Trophy. And without them, we'd have a hard time telling the world about it. The Ocala Quarterback Club, you've been around since 1955. You can go to Facebook, the Ocala Quarterback Club, find out how to join. The regular season has ended, but we'll have more opportunities for you, and also find some ways how you can attend the Scott Bradley Trophy ceremony. That's going to about wrap it up for the night. Thanks to our guest tonight. Appreciate very much your participation in the show. We thank our guest, Jason Higdon, who's really just one of the best when it comes to things like information. He doesn't guess. His information is sourced very well, and we'll have him on again. Thank you to the Minister of Information, Graham Hall, for coming on and filling us up with more information and stuff, and also to Franz Beard, who's the Iron Duke, is always there. So we will say thanks for watching, and we'll say good evening to you. Good night.